Okay, so this is the latest video, version 2, of using connectors that have minimal welding to actually build the whole chassis body together, something we referred to as WUMPs before. And so we're just going to take a look at some of the further refinements to the drawings we've done here. These are still rough design sketches. So this is the connector unit itself, and you can see now it only has 4 holes. For connecting, it has the one large hole in the middle for getting access behind the plate. So the plate is a heavy aluminum plate, and then there's 4 angle aluminum connectors, or angle pieces that are cut at 45-degree angles, and then they're welded together. And then through that welds, we draw a drill the 4 holes, and that's just to space them out as far apart as possible into the corners to get the most amount of strength in terms of how the connector connects to the plate. It's still drilling through that weld, but that's the idea of the placement of those holes. So if we look at the exploded view of that whole unit, we can see where those holes are drilled. I believe the holes will be drilled after they're welded together, though. And you can see how the plate connects up to them. So then we can also look at how these are, and previously I referred to those square connectors as WUMPs. It turns out that was incorrect. The WUMPs are actually these plates that are underneath. So this plate that has the rounded end nose at the bottom here is actually referred to as a WUMP. Those square pieces are called connectors. And then this is the whole unit that bolts into the bottom of the chassis, either at the front or the back of the chassis. And you can see the angle pieces inside. There's a similar one for the top side, and the top side, the plate actually slides inside of this WUMP plate at the top, slides into the chassis tube at the top. So it's a little bit skinnier. It's essentially the same design, except that that top plate's a little bit skinnier. Now the new thing we're adding in this video is these connectors that go to 45 degrees. So as we drill holes into the corners, these actually keep them, the bolts, so it has a flush thing to mount on. And in the original drawings, these were round. Well, there was a couple problems with them being round. One thing, it became very difficult to actually draw these in the 3D software. And so the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, but how hard would it be in the real world to actually cut these if they were round? Well, I think it would be incredibly difficult because there would be no reference side as to what is actually 45 degrees or 50 or 90 degrees from another thing. So physically in the shop trying to cut 45-degree angles that are exactly 90 degrees from each other would be almost impossible to do with a human hand. Maybe if you had it completely mechanized by machine, a CAD machine, it could be done. So I was thinking actually using square stock, it would be much simpler to actually manufacture. It's also much easier to draw the CAD drawings, and I think it's actually a more efficient, elegant design as well. So we'll just throwing it out there for discussion as well. Taking a look at how these are placed inside. So this is where these go inside. We actually want to drill these eye bolt anchors that go into the corner. They need something to actually bolt to on the other side. So these aluminum blocks that are cut at this angle actually make a flush surface to bolt against. And the size of them are just kind of what I came up with. They could actually be smushed closer into the angle. They could be skinnier. They could be wider blocks. I think their skinnier would probably be a little bit too thin. This is as skinny as I thought you could go to make them lightweight but still strong. I'm still showing this part where we have this part of the chassis that's hard to access, and so the feedback from David was, well, we actually are going to cut the tubes here to add a door in, and that's fine. We can actually implement that chassis design as well with the doors cut. If we do, we need to compensate for cutting that top tube, the section out for the door. Once we do that, we significantly decrease the strength of the chassis, and so we need to compensate for that in a number of different ways. And so we've discussed in team and how to do that. One way is by adding U-shaped quarter-inch plates and actually welding those or gluing or bolting those into place to actually give a structure around the door area flexing. Another idea is actually adding a door that locks into place, so they actually have a locking mechanism, so that it actually reinstates the strength somewhat of the door when it was actually part of the chassis, when there was no door cut into the chassis part. So I haven't implemented the door design yet in these drawings. So this is just the back view of these whole WUMP components, and these just give a place for the connectors to connect these different segments, so the up and down 4-inch tubes. And they also give a place to create these anchors that go at a 45-degree angle, but because this is the open engine bay, you can't actually go diagonally across here, across the open engine bay. And that is pretty much this whole video. And it's again just one more step in the process it ends. We haven't added the eye bolts yet, we haven't added the cables that actually do the 45-degree cross bracing throughout the chassis. So just an update video, and love to get your feedback, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.